Andrew stared at me. How did you even do that? That rock was 50 tons. I don't even know. But
hey, G, do you know? What are you doing?
Is
this a camera?
Oh, no, don't touch it.
Well, first of all, it's like super zoomed in on your face. What are you
Scar,
doing, though?
Stop, please.
Took you long enough.
Yeah, good thing you chose an easy spot.
Chapter 10. Gee, you're looking good. Couldn't say the same about Darren. He stood in the night, disheveled, which for Darren is a mess. And could only imagine where he'd been. Part of me was just furious to see him there, though glad just to know that he wasn't wreaking havoc somewhere else. I finally responded, "What do you want?" He sighed and said, "I've done a lot of thinking. Gee, I know that things are hard for the Ceremaians and I want to try to make it right." And I scoffed at that. I said, "Yeah, there's no way you're going to be able to fix the things that you broke, the lies that you've told, ways you've betrayed me. Grant is dead because of you, not to mention the life of exile that he had to live because you kept him there." I said, "We don't want you back." I said, "Even if I decided to take you back, the rest of Ceremea would be livid to see you back here. There's no way that's happening." And I could tell that he began to say something but clenched his jaw and finally calmed down. And he said, I want to place among you again." He said, "No." He said, "If that's why you're here, there's no reason for you to stay. Go before I make you leave." And he said, "Gee, just please listen to me for a minute. That's all I ask." I said, "That's all you asked before, and that's... You weren't willing to talk before, so I don't know why I would listen to you now." But as I looked at him, I could see the pain on his face. I'd seen act like that before, and I wasn't going to be caught again, but something in his voice cut deeper than I would like to admit. I said, "All right, what do you want? What do you want to propose?" And he said, I want... He said, "The Profithians are doing things, and I want to warn you about them. I want to stop the war that's mounting between these two worlds." And I said, "All right, tell me." And he said, "Gee, this isn't the kind of thing that I can just tell you and you can go save the day. You need to see this for yourself. They have anti-seer technology and things that you've never seen before, that none of the Ceremaians have ever seen before." And I said, "All right, well then why don't you get rid of your anti-seer technology? I'll see it, I'll know everything that you know, and we can be on our way." And he said, "Gee, you're not the only one that's vulnerable here. I'm not going to leave myself prone to your attacks, let myself be left for dead again. I need to keep this up I can't reveal all I am to you, because I don't know what you're going to do. He said, why do you think I came by cover of night? I don't want the Prophithians to know that I'm here. They're not willing for me to just waltz into your world and talk with you. I said, well, then why don't you just go back to them? You've got a place among the Prophithians, right? He said, you think I'm all good with the Prophithians? They see me as the reason that you got out in the first place, that they lost the world of truth. He said, no, I still have a place among them, but I don't even know if I want that anymore. Especially not worrying every moment that you're going to try to find me and attack me. He said, I want to be out of hiding. And I know that that's not going to work among the Prophithians. And I knew that was going to be pretty hard among the Ceremanes as well. They weren't going to accept Darren. Part of me did want to just know where Darren was, but how could I know which side he was spying for and giving answers to? I said, I don't have an answer for you. He said, I expected that. Give it some thought, and let me know what your decision is. And I said, how am I supposed to do that? He reached into a pocket in his jacket and pulled out an orange box with grooves in it and bits of metal implanted in it. The box was orange, and as he handed it to me, I took it, and I could tell that Destiny was not happy. This was a perversion of orange ISO, and he couldn't see anything about this box. The whole thing was blank to him. Only I could see it. And he kind of wanted me to just chuck it on the ground and destroy the thing. But I held on to it, and I said, what is this? And he said, it's a map to get to me. Scar will be able to solve it. Don't try to solve it yourself. It'll break the mechanism within. Only Scar can solve this thing. And that made me trust him all the less. But he said, Scar has just as much decision in my future as you do, G. I want her to be part of this conversation. I opened up my scabbard and tucked the box within. And he said one more thing. He pulled another package out of one of his pockets and handed it to me. And this one Destiny could see through, and I frowned. Granola bars? And he almost looked a little bit embarrassed. He said, those are for Scar too. She'll understand. And I said, how can I know that they're not poisoned or anything? And he looked at me with a look that had a sharpness in his eye. And he said, I would never do anything to her, not after everything that she's been through. And I knew that much was true. I was still so confused at the relationship that those two had and how that had happened. But I knew that he wouldn't hurt Scar. I couldn't dispute that fact. And so I'll give him to her. But I'm not going to guarantee anything about your proposition. And he nodded and said, well, I thought I'd try. And disappeared in a convergence of color and light. As I made my way back through the gardens, I slipped the second package into the scabbard and closed it back up. And Destiny became a faint figure to the side of me. And he said, who does Darren think he is? And I could feel the rage that Destiny has as he began to rant about Darren. And that caught me off guard. I didn't like him either, but Destiny was, like, uncontrollable here. I said, whoa, like, there's no reason to, like, calm down, Destiny. And he turned to me and he said, G, if you've seen, you don't know everything that he's done. If you had seen it all, you'd be as livid as I was. And the very fact that he came in here to Saramea trying to hide from us. If he's gonna come, let him tell his secrets, but he can't hide things from us. And, I mean, I agreed with Destiny in that regard. I was like, how are you so angry? Aren't you a force, like Hana said? And Destiny said, yes, I am a force. The emotion is all yours, all imprint from the time that I spent possessing you. And I said, what? I'm not an angry person. Like, the destruction of Sam Tath, that was not my emotion that did that. And Destiny shrugged his shoulders and said, well, it didn't come from me, that's for sure. I said, there's no way that could be mine. And I didn't hate the Prophithians. Like, I mean, kind of, but not in that regard. And he said, you provided the emotion. It was stoked by the injustice and everything the Prophithians had done to change destiny. It created the zeal in both of us. You provided the ability, I provided the power. And I still didn't like to think about that. I was still so confused about destiny and everything that he is. But we made our way up the staircase into Scar's room. The purple ISO that reflected off the marble floor, flaring orange as I went past. I knocked on Scar's door. Somehow she could always hear when I was knocking, despite the noise on the far side. There was metal ringing of some kind, like sword fighting. I heard her shout, come in, and opened up the door. Her room was just as messy as always, furniture and clothes and everything littered across the floor. She said it made her more agile to have to walk around things. As I slipped in, she had a sword and was fighting two swords that were floating midair and trying to come at her from both sides. She slapped the one and spun it around and slammed it down to the ground, catching it with her foot. As she came around and caught the second blade right before it hit her, she forced it backward and it flew back in the air before drifting back towards her, which gave her time to reach down and grab the first sword by the hilt. It fell motionless and she shoved it in her pocket as she caught the second sword again and blocked a number of its blows and spun it around, flipping it in the air and catching it by the hilt. And it fell dead within her grasp, and she took it with her other sword and put them both in her pocket, and she wiped her forehead with the little bit of sweat that came from sword fighting. And she said, nothing like a little spar to cool down. And she said, my world today? I said, yeah, your world. I said, is there? And she pulled a gate from her pocket. I said, is there anything I should know? Should I have Talonthorn at the ready this time? And she said, guess you'll just have to see. And grabbed my elbow and we traveled through to the far side. When we came through, we were on a floating island just a few hundred yards across. And there were islands floating all around us and an ocean lapping hundreds of feet underneath. The sun was beginning to set where we were, and Scar led us over to the edge of the island where she sat dangling her legs off the edge. I did the same. Heights were still a little bit sketchy for me, but I was with Scar and I had Siren. I'd be fine. And we sat there for a while, and I just enjoyed being there with Scar. Traveling was wonderful, saving the universe, great. But it was the moments like this that I really lived for. after a while, she asked what it was that I had to do, and I explained that there was someone in the gardens who had wanted to talk to me. I said it was Darren. I knew that she'd see straight through any lie that I had, that I'd try to give. I still hadn't gotten any better about lying. And I guess that's not a bad thing. But she whirled on me, eyes wide. Every time she looked at me, half of me wanted to run away in fear. The other half wanted to run away for different reasons. But she grabbed my arm and said, "What did he say?" I opened up my scabbard and pulled out the food that he'd brought me. I said, "Well, he said to give this to you." And she took it and tore it open, and I kind of gasped at the food that Darren had left, and she said, "Oh, it's been so long," and she tore one open and began to eat it, and she sat back seemingly content. She stuck the rest of the package in her pocket and finished the bar. I could tell she was as hesitant to ask as I was as hesitant to answer, but finally she asked, "Well, what else did he say?" And I said, "Well, he wants to join us." And this girl said, "Gee, we've got to do it. I can't imagine how hard life has been for him for the last month. I mean, we've had ruins to work with, and we still have the village. The Profithians haven't had anything. They've had a barren world and all of their technology destroyed. You know life hasn't been easy for Darren." And I sighed. I knew that had to be true. But that didn't make him the good guy. And I still said, "I don't know. And this isn't something for the two of us to decide. The council should have a say in this as well." And all of that. I said, "I still don't know." And she said, "Is he going to come back at some point to get an answer from us?" And I said, he knows how to contact us. Yeah, he'll know when we make our decision. That was enough to satisfy her for now. I still didn't know, and Destiny didn't trust him at all. Though when I made that point, Scar just said, "What, is Destiny your girlfriend? I've seen how much you two talk together." I said, "Do you want me to answer that question?" She just nudged my shoulder, and we fell back into a quiet peace, watching the sun finally dip under the waves, turning them bright orange as exotic birds flew down onto our island. And I enjoyed just being there. End of chapter 10.